by supporting simultaneous co-authoring and transparent version control. In short, Neopolis is GitHub for legal professionals. But let's start from the beginning. Prior to founding Neopolis, file names like this were my everyday struggles when I was working as a policy analyst at the German parliament. But when you face the deadline, you don't have to worry anymore because you will never walk alone. You will always have colleagues.
Okay, Michael, hold on. So I think, can everyone see Michael's screen share?
Yes. Yeah, we can see it, Roland.
Okay, yeah, because Shugam's here, and I started this from that meeting room now at the law school, and I'm just gonna log out of this now, and then maybe Shugam, you can join again through the link. Yeah, sorry for that. Okay.
Yeah, I would highly suggest everybody just join through the Zoom meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's what I thought we did here, but I don't know, didn't quite.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to clarify on your individual devices,
Yeah.
the room in-room system. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll just go through our laptop.
Yeah.
That's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry for that, Michael. Back to you.
Okay, great. I can also wait for a bit longer until you guys see the slides. No worries. So yeah, basically when you face a deadline, even if you have version mess or version names like this, you never walk alone, because you will have colleagues and external parties at your side that will help you with their valuable input just a few hours before the deadline. Like old documents from the very early loops of the project, different file formats like PDF formats, their own version count, incorporating the date in manifold ways, and some are also ahead of their time. And if you're the lucky one who has to merge these versions, then it takes a lot of time, a lot of nerves, and for me, it was just painful, really painful. I spent countless hours on searching documents, sending redlined Word documents back and forth. And at some point, I realized that it was not just my all-day struggles. There are millions of knowledge workers that have that problem. So why do we face this massive pain? And for answering that question, we're going to dive into the history of co-authoring and check out why we are still collaborating like 40 years ago. So let's start with Word, every lawyer's darling. So Microsoft made it possible to edit text documents and send them around with Outlook and have a standardized form of collaboration, but it somehow caused the age of version chaos and email ping pong, where we are still mostly stuck. So it takes an enormous amount of process steps to carry out simple review and co-authoring loops on documents. And now imagine there are even more participants and review loops than depicted in a simple example. Collaboration gets complex pretty fast, and legal professionals spend up to 2 hours daily on document administration. And these processes, they are not just time and mind consuming, no, they are also error prone. So you might raise the question, why don't we all work on the same document? Google raised the same question in the 2000s and brought Google Docs to the cloud, and everyone was working on one document. And in the legal sector, this age could be called the age of live editing confusion. Why is that? So we've interviewed 150 lawyers in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland from different practice groups, from different law firm sizes. And we observed that the adoption of live editing was very, very low. It was, in fact, only 0.5%. And when we have asked them why that is, we got interesting insights. For example, many lawyers are feared of other people smuggling words into their documents or losing transparency about the version story. Another point were performance issues And we also saw that people want their private safe space for co-authoring. So Google Docs is not really an option for the legal sector. But what we have also observed at the same time, we see another industry excelling when it comes to version control, the IT world. Developers collaborate in a controlled and simultaneous manner on source code. Thousands of them, like 10,000 developers on the Linux kernel, for example. And now you might ask, why can't lawyers just use GitHub or developer tools? Because it's not that works, basically. Developer tools, they're hard to learn. For non-IT professionals, for people without an IT background, they are really efficient, but it's just a hurdle to get into that. And so our vision became to empower legal professionals to collaborate as efficient and engaging as software developers collaborate on source code. And we have turned that vision into a product, which I love to showcase you now. Together, we're going to work through a collaboration process between two lawyers and one client. On the law firm side, Andy and Paula are joining. And on the client side, Carol is joining. And together, we're going to work through the collaboration process from creating a first version with Neopolis to actually getting feedback in the end of the day from the client. So let's start with Paula. The matter is urgent and she's the pen holder. She creates a first template in Word, or a first version in Word based on a template. We see her interacting with the Neopolis add-in on the right side. She creates a version. She could create it with one click, but she gave some context information for the other contributors. And this version is then published to everyone else. For example, also to Andy, who can collaborate at the same time without actually interfering Paula. So there's no document checkout, but there's also no live editing confusion. We don't see Andy's cursor in Paula's document, which we see now again. And Paula creates another version while Andy is working and then wants to bring the document out to the client and merges the changes of Andy into the main document. We can see that she can jump from change to change, accept and reject them, and then merge the changes back on the main document, which is then ready for the client. And the client can get the document as a link, and Paula can easily create this email with a link from within Word. So again, she's in Word. Again, we don't have media disruptions. And we see that Carol can open the document with the browser of her choice. For example, she's just commuting right now and wants to give some comments on the law firm's draft, and she can do it with her smartphone. If she would have a computer, she could also collaborate with Word without the need of actually having the add-in. And we see the comments got sent into the law firm. And again, Paula needn't leave Word. She has one comprehensive version story and can easily access who changed what and when, compare versions with drag and drop, and has a real high level of transparency. And for us, this form of collaboration from the IT world has three advantages for lawyers. First of all, we really try to prune Git and make it as simple and straightforward as possible. And you can learn to work Git-based, collaborate Git-based with Neopolis within a few minutes. It's just in Word and the barrier is very low. Second, simultaneous co-authoring really speeds up things. You can save time and you increase transparency, which saves time again. And last but not least, you really have secure collaboration processes because the version chaos has been reduced. And this, in other words, leads to less overnighters, more fun, and just a better life for lawyers if you want. And this motto, we have transformed it into an event series if you want. So we invite lawyers, the legal tech crowd, and have code and drinks each first Thursday in the month. So if you want to join, I mean, it's a bit more difficult overseas, but yeah, we also hosted some of them digitally, and maybe we can also arrange you having drinks. You're invited. Other upcoming highlights, or we're looking forward to, is Legal Geeks. Also, please reach out to me if you're there and want to meet in person. Would be happy to do this. Furthermore, we have a product hunt launch. Would also be super happy if you would support a legal tech tool like us there in the beginning of October. And yeah, thanks so much for your attention. I'm excited, yeah, for your questions.
Great, thank you, Michael. This is wonderful. And yeah, where you guys are located? So you're inviting people for drinks. Where can we come?
We're located in Berlin, but
okay, got it. Okay, all right. So whoever is in Berlin, you know, you should meet the Neapolis team for drinks on Thursdays. But yeah, thank you so much. I just talked to a lawyer friend of mine about this issue. How, you know, why Google Docs is not a good substitute for MS Word for legal work, right? Because you're like, sometimes you're just trying to focus on something and write a line, and then already somebody is like overwriting what you just wrote. And so that's kind of, you know, so that's at least how this friend kind of explained his hesitation to use you know, kind of a shared document for legal work. But it seems like you're addressing that with your solution. Are you so this is just a plugin for Word, or how does this work?
So that's basically our core product, a plugin for Word, but we also have a product line of CLM and DMS integrations. So for example, with the Swiss CLM provider Axicos, we have developed a solution that you can easily share documents from within their CLM via this web-based interface, which we just saw in the video, and then the comments and the edits of the people you've shared with get merged back into the CLM. So yeah, it's basically two products. The CLM solution is a lightweight solution, and the Word add-in is the core product, because we saw that we have to be where lawyers are, even if it's sometimes not a developer's dream. But yeah, it's just important for user adoption to be where people edit.
So Bruce is asking, you know, what the time savings are that people can realize with your service.
I mean, on a personal basis per lawyer, it also depends on the practice group, of course. But if you imagine like large legal projects, like due diligence reports, where people have to do a lot of document administration, then it can be 1.5 hours per day. In average, I would say 45 to 1 hour.
Well, that they're saving like an hour per day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I mean, not only the direct saving by simultaneous co-authoring, but the increased transparency also leads to less errors and leaner processes, which then save time in the end again.
Got it. Jeannie's asking what feedback you've received from lawyers who actually bill by the hour and who might not necessarily appreciate additional efficiency, which is, you know, one question that you know, is often raised with regard to efficiency increasing legal technologies as they
enter
the
that's a fair
traditional law firm environment.
That's a fair question. So we have basically only worked with law firms which were interested in offering their clients better services, and where matters are really time sensitive. And it's a great competitive advantage if you can deliver faster than competitors. And yeah, but we also got some comments like from smaller law firms, if you have 1 to 3 practitioners, that this efficiency gain is not needed. But at least in the German speaking area and in the UK where we are active, we saw that medium-sized law firms and large law firms, they are really interested in getting this efficiency gain to make their clients happier.
Okay, so then Jeannie's just sort of giving a little bit more context here, saying she pitched an idea like that, and it was at her firm, and that was shut down because of that concern. So Will is asking, just to clarify, this is not a Git-like technology, or is it in fact backed by Git? And related to that, Bernhard saying, where are the different commits and the versions of the documents stored in GitHub? And so who has the ownership of the document?
Yes, we use on the server side very, very Git-like software. So we modified kind of a little bit because we are not processing plain text data, but rich text data. But we stored similar logic with we use the Git logic for pointers and parents in this database schema, like what is in the Git interior. And yep, so it's Git-like, it's Git. And where they are stored, they're on, we can host them wherever you want. Currently, we provide SaaS solutions, meaning that we have a SaaS server, not Git-based GitHub hosted, because we currently cannot work directly on GitHub, just for the reason of rich text. But we're talking to GitHub, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But on an end user basis, the merge logic is the same like for Git. The merge conflict detection is the same. I invite you to try it out, to challenge it critically where we differ from Git.
Mm-hmm. So that's also related to Shugam's question. So what's your business model? Like, how do you charge people, and how does that work?
So on a SaaS basis, we charge per month per seat, and all of the external collaborators, I mean, it's a collaboration tool, they are invited for free. So it's a bit Notion-like, if you want.
Okay.
And for the CLM integrations, which is another revenue stream, we charge the CLM providers per month per seat. And the value added for them is that they can offer their customers a collaboration feature, and on top of that, through gray labeling, it's also a marketing tool for them to get more transparency.
No, so I thought you had like CLM features too, but no, you're powering CLM players with your.
Yeah. Sorry if I communicated that not clear enough.
Great. So anyways, let me just see. Well, yeah, some folks are discussing, the option that some firms could reduce their hourly rates, or sort of pass on some of the savings they might accomplish through efficiency tools to the clients. And anyways, Paul's asking this. Yeah, anyone piping up here? Or?
This is a process we currently see, that some people are struggling with automated legal tech tools, and so they need to create their own efficiency to be compatible in certain cases. For sure, the main cases we're currently focusing on co-authoring are not in those fields. They're more based on security, but on efficiency. Meaning that when we have large contracts about hundreds and hundreds of pages, you don't want to find mistakes in there. So this is about the security we provide to the co-authors to be sure that everything is straight and aligned.
Roland, I have a question.
Good. Yes, please.
It's Heidi Sass. I have a question about privacy, of course. So if you are taking all of your documents and mashing them together and making another one, which I appreciate, what about the metadata?
Excuse me, I didn't hear it properly.
So every document
Could
that
you
you're
please repeat?
merging together, does the metadata play a role in your merger? How do you deal with the metadata, considering a lot of the documents that you are merging together may have security controls in place for privacy as well as access? How do you deal with that issue?
So Sebastian, do you want to answer it, or?
Yep. When we have the metadata, meaning who has authored what when of the document, or do you mean also I would say the document features of having security or encrypted stuff with the Word document?
I would say that all of your documents should have the data within the documents tagged to make sure that you have personally identified information handled appropriately as a third-party vendor for sure. So I was wondering what respect do you give to privacy when you're going in as a vendor to deal with other people's contracts involving personal information? Because a lot of that information is categorized and tagged in the metadata, and then you're taking their data and then merging it into a new data. I wanted to know if the metadata goes with that. If you don't know, that's fine. It's okay.
The metadata of the document is so the document who has changed what. We have this, meaning how we store it, meaning that we encrypt it when it's on our side as a SaaS solution. It's just encrypted by us, double encrypted in the cloud. But if you want to have a private cloud, you can have the key. You have the key to the kingdom. So that means we don't have any access to it. So you have totally control about the information you encrypt in there. We don't.
Okay,
That's
and my understanding is also you're not necessarily, morphing different, documents together. You're just allowing people a shared space to create a joint document collaboratively, right?
Yep, that's true.
And Paul's asking, is this cloud-based? Is this infrastructure? Is this cloud-based infrastructure? Or can you install?
More along the lines of, if you, when you run this, typically say for a large firm that has users, are they uploading documents to your cloud that you kind of have jurisdiction and control over and all the security responsibility? Or can a firm, if they wanted to install this internally for their whole enterprise, they could put it on like an Azure that the firm owns and controls and has their own security controls, or both?
You can, yep, sure. You can put it on your own Azure. You can put it on your own on-premise server, wherever you want.
Cool.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, Michael and Sebastian. We're already at the end of our time for the first presentation. So if you could perhaps share your contact information. I believe you may have already done that, but if you haven't,
we're going to share it in the chat.
yeah, please put it in the chat. And if folks have more questions, please reach out directly to Michael and Sebastian. But in any event, I really appreciate you coming in and kicking off our fall group meeting series with your presentation. It looks like a really useful tool, and really appreciate you sharing out. And yeah, please join me in giving a quick round of applause to Michael and Sebastian. And then we'll turn it over to Paul.
It was an honor. Thanks.
Yeah, great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hans Paul, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi guys. I cannot turn on my video. I think now I can. I'm granted access. Thanks. Hi Roland, how are you?
Good to see you.
See you after some months.
Yeah.
Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting us. Hi, everyone. And also nice to see Michael and Sept from Neapolis. Fun fact, we met on a slope in the Dolomites for the first time, and we met there. So nice to see you here. It's a bit of serendipity. Cool. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start. And so I'm Hans Pohl, the CEO and co-founder at Speed Legal, and I'm here today with Aishwarya, my co-founder and head of legal.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
So Speed Legal is a SaaS company that helps everyone, specifically focusing on C-suite executives, GCs, and busy professionals to understand contracts and their risks within seconds. So my background is finance and economics. I worked for Amazon as a financial analyst, and that's where I saw the pain point. So reviewing contracts and preparing reports for my managers, boy, it was very tedious and time consuming. So I decided to come up with a better way. And after coming to San Francisco and winning a hackathon at Stanford, we created Speed Legal. So here we're focusing on two main pain points. On one side, there's a time and knowledge constraint. As a busy CEO or CFO or GC, I don't have always the time to read contract line by line. And sometimes I don't have the knowledge to understand each word and all the legalese within the contracts. So the other solution is, of course, going to outside counsel, but not all startups and SMEs are able to afford, especially in the US, but also in Europe, billable hours to go from 500 to $1,200 per hour. We have estimated and tested the cost of this with our clients, which goes between 1 and 5K per contract and $60,000 per year in legal fees. And we are not taking into account the missed opportunities of losing a deal because you're missing a doc during a DD for an investor. So we have developed a solution for this, and I'll let Aishwarya tell you a bit more about that.
Thank you, Hans Paul. So as you already know the problem, and at Speed Legal, we thought of three things: efficiency, accuracy, and time saving for all our clients, and simplicity. So with that, we've developed a three-part solution, which consists of our contract summaries, our red flag table, and our classic CMS automatic reminders features. So when you go onto the platform, it's pretty intuitive. You just upload a document. Here we have a standard license agreement. And once you upload it, it goes through our system. It's processing. It'll probably take a few seconds, can go up to a minute. It's done now. So you just access that. And then on the right, you can clearly see our dashboard, which will, on the first view, it will show you the risk meter. This document does not seem to be too risky. It's somewhere in the middle, but it still has about 8 red flags that you need to look out for. And these red flags we've picked out after comparing this contract to the existing market standards. It includes some red flags with regards to its termination, indemnity, its initial term, things like that. And then if you click on the key text in the red flags, it'll take you to the exact part of the contract where the problem area exists, so you could quickly fix that. Apart from the red flags, it also shows you green flags, which are things that are good within your contract, things that comply with the existing market standards. So this seems to be overall a pretty okay-ish contract. You just need to, figure out some of the red flags, and then perhaps, if you want to deal with them yourself or talk to your outside counsel or in-house, you can work on that. Apart from that, we also have the contract summary, which will show you the contract value, the effective date, the different parties, and the key financial values involved in the contract. So you can just have all that as a quick glance. Next, you also get access to something we call the contract nutrition label. We believe that reading a contract should be as simple and easy as reading the nutrition label at the back of your food, and it should be just as intuitive. So this is all plain language text that we've translated directly from the contract. We tell you in this in simple, plain language, not legalese, who is bound, what are things that you need to do in the contract, that is, what are your obligations. Here we have vendor and client obligations, and you also get to see your rights within the contract, what are things you can do. So we've divided them into customer rights and vendor rights for the purposes of this agreement. And then lastly, you also get to see what are things that you can get sued for. So in this contract, there are a bunch of things, like if you violate these particular duties, you can there's potential liability there. So as you see, this is very simple to read, and even non-lawyers can understand the different obligations and rights within the contract. And if you want to take a deeper dive, you can look at the exact legal text extracted from the contract. And for our right here. And for our standards, when I mentioned that we compare them to market standards, we've actually developed them in consultation with our expert committee, which has expert attorneys from reputed law firms, finance professionals that have helped us improve the quality of our standards and also make sure that the things we're flagging for the clients end up being accurate. So in simple terms, because we love simple terms, Speed Legal, we basically Marie Kondo your contracts. We show you the stuff that sparks most joy and perhaps also the stuff that sparks some alarm with regards to your liability. Back to you, Hans Paul.
Thank you, Julia. So we're not just saving time and money. Of course, we're also accelerating business. And on average, our clients go 3x faster. And what we really believe is in fostering human interaction and trust among our users. And the way we do that is by saving time, of course, when they read the contract, so they can devote more time in building deep relationships. So there are other companies in this segment, of course. Some of them I've already presented at CodeX. But what makes us very different, our unique part, our niche, is the next-gen red flag and the automation, the risk analysis, as you've seen before. And we make it also easy to understand in layman's terms, the speed and also the language. We are adding more languages as we are based in the US, but with a part of us a step into Europe. So we have added a lot of European languages, such as Italian, Spanish, French, and we'll be adding other languages soon. So the team is passionate and experienced about the topic with more than 20-year compound experience. As Veria, my co-founder, just presented, she is currently finishing her PhD at Berkeley. Roy worked for Pinterest, Microsoft, and Apple as a data scientist. I told a bit about myself, and worked for NASA and the Ministry of Defense of India. So we are here to connect with more like-minded people, legal innovators, of course, potential partners, and we are also raising our current pre-seed. So we're here to answer any of your questions, and thank you for your time today.
Cool, thank you. Very exciting. So, couple of questions. I love Aishwarya's metaphors of Marie Kondo your contracts, and there's another thing that you said also about the label, the food label, make it as simple as a nutrition label. I think that's a really good idea, especially if your target segment are business people and CFOs and COOs and not lawyers. I'm wondering when you create this sort of this benchmark and you compare your contracts to what's standard, how do you get the data for what's standard? That's my first question. And the second one is on this translation, which is an intuitively very valuable feature of sort of bringing these complex legalese terms and filtering out in one word what that actually means. And I can't help but the lawyer in me asks, is there not a certain risk involved in that? Is that not almost sort of legal analysis in itself, right? And I can totally see the functionality and the utility of that feature, but and I think it's great that you're providing it, but I'm also a little bit like, what if you get it wrong? What if it's there not a certain risk involved in doing this for you?
Yeah, totally. Those are all very fair questions, Roland. And those are things that we were also trepidatious about when we were initially thinking of this automated translation of legal text. So one of the ways that we deal with that is, first of all, we have everything that goes through Speed Legal. We'll try to have it QC'd. We do periodic meetings with experts, partners at Magic Circle law firms, and things like that about how good is our translation for X amount of documents. And we take a set of documents, we'll do hundreds of them, and if the accuracy rates are seeming to be good, then we're like, okay, I think we don't need to fine tune further. I think this is a good system that we've developed for this. Apart from that, we also just warn all our clients that we're not a law firm, we're not your in-house, and we're not your outside counsel. This is just something that you use as an initial reference point. Like your sales team, you're closing a lot of deals, you need to understand stuff quickly, then this is your tool. But this is not legal advice. And with regards to the data question, Hans-Paul, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, so how do we create our standards? There are a couple of ways. So first of all, it depends. If you are a big client, usually the big clients have their own standards. So they upload their standards into Speed Legal, and we use them as a reference. If they don't have a standard, usually SMEs, we have two ways of doing that. We use data first by clustering the 10,000 of contracts that we have collected and reviewed so far, and clustering by different criteria such as locations, governing laws, type of contract, the parties involved, and so forth. Not the names of the parties, but the side of the table. And then, of course, we have also a QC team, as Ajveria mentioned. So we have on top of that, we double check the standards with an expert team of legal experts.
Got it.
Did I answer your question, Roland?
Yeah, I think you did, and I think you answered the question of others who were asking about UPL issues and Word. So you had a sort of a set of contracts. That's your training set. You also answered the question about what machine learning algorithms you're basically using a clustering algorithm to do this.
Yeah, we have different algorithms, but clustering is one of those. But yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And what's the other one? Yeah, my question into what you think is market standard, right? What's market for a specific term? How do you, is that also from your sort of group of expert law firm lawyers you get this from?
Data plus lawyers. I'll let you take it if you want to, Ajveria, but it's always
comparing it to all the other. Okay.
And we revise it every X months to be sure that it's up to date.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, and just to quickly add to that as well. So exactly that. And then we also tailor them to be like jurisdiction specific, because we have a mix of like European and like US clients, and they all tend to have like different types of needs. Someone also asked about like common law versus civil law. So we also tailored our standards to fit into every type of jurisdiction. And that is done through a mix of using good contracts to create our own data sets, and also consulting with experts.
Got it. Okay, the questions are all flying in now, and Bruce has his hand up. Bruce, you want to speak up? Where's Bruce now? Okay, so while we wait for Bruce, I'll maybe read someone else's question.
Hey, Hans-Paul, it's Bruce and
Hi,
Ashram.
Bruce.
Great presentation. I was worried in the enterprise context how you handle side letters. So you have a contract and it's been approved by the general counsel, but then the deal people typically issue side letters that say, don't worry about their.
I have a bit of a hard time hearing you, Bruce. Can you say it again?
Yes. Often the standard contract is not, does not exist in its form because deal people, business people, will alter it using side letters that say, notwithstanding the contract, this is what we'll do, and don't worry about these provisions. How do you deal with side letter amendments or through the contract amendments of all?
Yeah, very good question.
I'm muted. So Bruce, just so I understand correctly, you're asking about how do we deal with the updates to like the standards that maybe the business team will make in the process of a transaction, like things that they no longer worry about. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That's a great question. And that's actually one of the areas where, you know, we can actually be very flexible. So you can change the standard that you're uploading on Speed Legal as many times as you want. All you have to do is just like, you know, go to the platform and update the standard that you want to compare it to. So if your business team in the process of a transaction, say they decided to, you know, change their IP clauses, like they somehow no longer that worried about their IP, which they should be, but they're not. But you know, I'm giving you more of like the in-house would always be worried, but maybe business people less so. And they decided to change that, so they can just go here and add the new standard document, which will then reflect those changes, so they can do the comparison for all future documents or even the existing ones based on this new standard that they've created.
Yeah. But if I can push back real fast, it's not a new standard across the entire company. It's a standard for this one transaction. And it's not to be implemented permanently. It's a favor, if you will, in the transaction. So how would you handle the exceptional case, which happens all the time?
Not sure I fully understand. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. So you're saying that if they do not want to implement that standard, or what's sort of the problem here?
You see that?
So we can take it offline, but I'll try one more time, and you're being really patient. Thank you. Assume we have a clause that says all IP remains with Roland Vogel, but in order to do a deal, he makes a decision that some of the IP goes to the contractor, to the counterpart. But that's not the standard agreement that Roland has made with every contract.
I see.
The fact that there was a mandatory matter changed it away from that deal or that situation.
I see. I think I understand what you mean. So like, you know, you have a standard, but you decided to. I think the way I would answer that would be that's just like sort of like the standard way like negotiations would work, right? I mean, we could still flag that as a red flag for you, like, you know, you're giving away too much IP, but then ultimately it's up to the user and, you know, their in-house team, or like if they do decide to like, you know, seek external counsel, then it is up to them to take that sort of call. But we would usually just like compare it to the standards that they've created. Either the client has created with time, like, you know, whatever they feel most comfortable with, or the standards that we already have. But we wouldn't, you know, ultimately, like, we don't decide for the client what they end up deciding with, or whether they disregard a particular red flag, or whether they decide to go ahead with the deal or not. Like, we're not telling them like go ahead or don't go ahead. We're just showing them that this is not compliant with your standard. And then it's also a good tool for them to be able to see like what are some red flags that I could potentially negotiate on. And if the IP one is the one that they decide to negotiate on, then that is entirely up to them. So we wouldn't really be involved in that decision for them, or tell them what to do or not to do.
So, folks, my computer just crashed, and that means that I lost all the questions in the chat in my at least in my chat here. So, if folks still have any questions that they haven't gotten answered yet, please ask. You know, maybe unmute yourself, or maybe Hans Paul or Ishwar can see if there's questions in the chat that haven't been answered yet. But so my question would be, you know, what your initial, because you have a bunch of like early users there, and are they mostly in companies, or are you working with law firm lawyers too, or what's your target segment at the moment?
Very good question, and there is Paul asking a similar question, so that's great. So our initial target client, our early adopters, are people who ideally don't have a legal team within their company, but we have also onboarded GCs and in-house legal teams. So the core product is the risk analysis, but we also offer storage reminders and a bit of a CMS solution. So imagine of a CMS with superpowers. So I would say companies who are scaling from basically 10 contracts to 100 contracts per month and even more. We are, targeting all of those companies who basically don't have an internal legal team, or the legal team is buoyed with work, small legal team.
Okay, so just as a follow-up, do you just tell people, there's a risk, or do you also tell people then give them alternatives to say, like, you could revise this term, as follows?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Minimize that risk.
Do you want to take it, or I should say my?
Please go ahead, Hans-Paul.
Yeah. So what to do next after the red flag is something that we have in the pipeline. So giving you, let's say, an alternative text to suggest. But it's not fully created. So yeah, that's a very good point. So it's something we have in the pipeline, and that's the final solution as well. Because of course, as a non-lawyer, you understand there are some red flags, and you may understand what's within the contract thanks to the contract nutrition label, but I still need to talk to someone to amend the contract. So that's something we are working on, and that's a very good question.
Cool.
Yeah, and just to answer also to Bruce, who to jump in, if you have a specific standard with a side letter, I mean, it's as simply as modifying the standard from this dashboard, as I mentioned before. So it usually doesn't make so much sense to make a standard for one deal, but of course, if you have one deal standard, you can do it. And as you can see, you can have more than one standard here. So I can go here, add a new standard. Let's say I want to use one of the previously uploaded contracts. And now I have two standards. Wait. So that's something I can easily do, basically having more than one standard within my the platform itself.
Well, there's companies, that are also helping. Sorry, yeah, what you call standards is other companies call the playbooks, right? Sometimes a company may have a playbook on, well, we'll never accept an arbitration clause or things like that. And then it will automatically mark up contracts according to the playbook. Is that something that people can implement in your solution too?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, sorry,
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, what we call internal standard, it's basically the template of the company, and it's I guess it's the playbook if it's what I understood correctly.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right, and people pay a yearly subscription to the service?
Yeah, we have a couple of it's a SaaS model. So yes, we have also on demand. So if you don't want to pay a monthly fee, you can also pay $97 per contract or $5K per year for an unlimited subscription.
Okay, great. All right, so to all the investors out there, you should, if you're interested, you should connect up with Hans-Paul and Aishwarya. I think we have a few more minutes left, actually. Do you folks have any more questions? Do you have any questions? No.
Thank you, everyone, and happy to connect. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, that's a somewhat lengthy question. I think from on different licenses being used. And yeah, I think you addressed all the other questions. I mean, did you get to answer Shish's question on the risk matrix dynamic?
Yeah, so we don't really adjust for every deal, but it's a process that we internally do every X amount of months, depending on how much data we gather. Could be every 2 months or every 6 months. So, but that's a good. As we grow, we may eventually add that feature that you can. It's like a Google Trends for your contracts. That's a very good point.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us. It's very exciting. I think in general, this idea of using AI to, you know, go through large amounts of intense legalese and breaking it out for you know, normal people and, you know, business people to make decisions, right? And they might, you know, you might not, you know, not every transaction is a big M&A transaction with millions of dollars at stake, right? Where you're like, okay, I need the law firm to go through every comma, right? And you might actually, you know, have the thousands of, you know, kind of lower risk business transactions. You will still want to know what's in that document, right? But you might actually not want to pay a lawyer $1,000 an hour to go through that. And so for that segment, you know, I think there's a huge opportunity to bring and AI tools like that. And then, you know, with the data also comes to, you know, the sophistication, right? That your algorithms will get better and better at spotting and translating clauses into plain language. And so I think this is very cool, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. And, you know, I wish you, you know, great success with your next step, and hopefully you'll sort of, you know, get your seat round closed quickly and get to the next stage very soon.
So
But yeah, both
Thank
very
you so
cool.
much.
Sorry, was that
I
another?
was
Thank
saying
you so
thank you
much.
so much, Roland.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining, for all the questions. Thank you, Michael and Sebastian, also for sharing your company with us. I think that was a great way to kick off our series. And please you keep us posted. And yeah, we'll be, let me ask Susan quickly when our next session will be. Susan, do we have something on the schedule?
Yeah, we actually have a group meeting on September 29th. So we have two more exciting presentations. So please join us then. And then mark your calendars for October 11th. 12:45 to 2 will be Meet CodeX, which is our annual sort of open house where we invite our fellows and affiliated faculty to talk about their projects and share what we're up to. That will be both virtually and on campus. So either way, I hope you can join us.
All right. Thank you, Susan. Okay. Thank you all for joining, and see you all next time, September 29th.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.